I gotta say, I love the fresh milk too.
Next question.
We've stunned them.
In the red, in the back.
Oh, I have a question for Libba Bray. I was just wondering, like, I've read these stories when they first came out, and I was wondering, like, if you can remember the moment where you first thought of Great and Terrible Beauty, just like the idea first came into your mind, the first inkling of it.
I was posing for you on a couch, wasn't it?
I said, I'm king of the world. And that was never it all comes back. Well, you know, I was thinking it was not one of those, you know, thunderbolt kinds of things. I think it was a gradual thing. I was actually working for a book packager. And I was writing these McNovels, you know. It's basically like you outline these things and they give you 6 weeks to write it. It's like, thank you, drive through please, here's your side of fries. And what I knew was that I didn't want to be doing that anymore. And I really wanted to write my own stuff. And I happen to love Victorian novels. I happen to love the creepy. I grew up in a creepy family. No, we're not surprised by that. And so you know, I really loved Gothic. And the first thought that I had was, wow, wouldn't it be fun to write a Victorian Buffy the Vampire Slayer? Sadly, Joss Whedon had already written Buffy the Vampire Slayer. It's you, Josh. Joss Whedon, that's it. But that was really kind of the first thought. Was like, wow, I really want to write a sort of. I want to do sort of a mash-up modern take on the Gothic, but I want a real kick-butt heroine. You know? And I remember writing, I wanted her to be able to kick butt and take names in a crinoline and corset. That was actually one of the selling lines. Interestingly enough,
that was good
I put in the time.
You pointed.
It's taken so much time. You know, and they said, Random House said, we will take it. Interestingly enough, I had actually signed the contract to write the trilogy on September 10th, 2001. So September 11th, 2001 was supposed to be my first day of work, and clearly it was not. So by the time I started writing on that a few months later, it felt like it became a very different book. But that was really, for me, it was sort of a gradual process. I always think that you should write what you love, and I love creepy Victorian, goth, fest, Buffy-esque things with drawings of David Levithan. Only in my head, because it's private. But yeah, that was the sort of impetus.
How is it going from Rebel Angels to going Bovine, going back to the Sweetfart thing? Like, because they're different. Like, yeah, they're not simple.
It was a palate cleanser, a big palate cleanser. It was weird. Well, the thing about the Sweetfart thing is, I characterize that as the Bataan Death March without the funny bits. That was it was such a painful writing process, and I think that it was just, there was a lot of pressure. I needed to finish that thing. There was so much going on, and I, unfortunately, am not one of those highly organized, as you're probably figuring out, people who just sits down and says, okay, this is how the book is going to go. That's how I do it. You know, I jokingly say that for me, it's like I'm standing at the open mouth of a plane, holding onto the ripcord and looking down, going, this could all end badly, and then I just need to jump and pull and hope that it all works. But that was a really, so that book was really, really difficult. So I don't know if that had something to do with it, just being tired, maybe. But it was actually really fun to sit down and write something very, very different. I like to be able to write lots of different things. And I was thinking about that because you write so many different kinds of things. I mean, I think that you...
One for each of my personalities.
Well, it's working. I was thinking about, like, how is that when you I don't want to say genre jump, but, like, because you write so big and you're so prolific, too.
And my books are so much thinner than yours. Yeah, I mean, I think, I don't know, it's just different stories pop into mind. Like, I made a conscious effort after my first book to do something different for the second book, to write it in verse. And so that set the tone to, like, just to hop and not, I mean, obviously I didn't I have never committed to doing a trilogy or doing something that I would carry the same characters forward. I have many ideas, and you choose which one to follow. And for me, one of the criterion of which one do you go with is it different from the one that came before? And that has served me pretty well. So. Yeah.
Did you ever go up to the towers? Did you ever visit the deck on the top?
Oh yeah. I mean, I grew up in New Jersey. So
yeah, I knew that, but I just wondered if.
Yeah, no, it's really. I mean, it was just part of your life.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you always saw it as a kid. It was larger than life. My grandfather's 80th birthday party was on News of the World. I mean, it was really interesting, and there's actually a throwaway line in this book about it. But
I haven't gotten.
And it's okay. Well, that's good. This won't be a repetition then.
Right. Thank you.
But it was interesting, and it's the classic New Yorker thing that I started this New Year's resolution, which continues to this day, on January 1st, 2001, to take at least one photo every day. And so I would carry my camera everywhere and take all these photos. And what was amazing to me was, after September 11th, I looked back, and there was one shot where the Twin Towers were sort of in the background, but it never occurred to me to take a picture. And it's just like the things that are so much the fabric of your life, you never think to take a picture of. And that was, I felt, so indicative of it. It was part of the landscape. Literally, the way that I walked to work, I literally would face the Twin Towers for 20 minutes walking downtown to work every day, and they were there. So what she says about the absence, I mean, it is still a physical absence, and it's very strange to me now, because people, I mean, it's the hustle and bustle of New York. People, it's been a long time, and so many of my friends were not there for that, and so they don't see the absence. They don't know what it used to look like, and it's just, you do feel sort of like you are of a time. And you become that guy who's like, oh, I remember when this was here, but in this case, it's a really big one. So it was, again, it wasn't, I think for all of us, it wasn't buildings that we cherished. It wasn't oh, they're so beautiful. It's not like the Chrysler Building, the Empire State Building, but it was just, it was the anchor of the downtown.
Thank you.
I have a question for you. It's about Buffy, because I'm a huge fan of Buffy.
And you mentioned that at the beginning.
I know. I watched the whole series nearly 3 times. It's really shaped my, well, it's helped me develop ideas for writing. Not that I'm plagiarizing Joss Whedon.
But if you know,
we all
borrow from Josh. Who better to borrow from?
Yeah, definitely. What's your favorite episode?
Hush.
Don't tell him to hush. You're so rude.
And I also love Once More with Feeling.
Oh, I have the whole musical soundtrack on my iPod.
Come on, you two, act it out. No, you can. And then everything took a strange turn.
Exactly, I know every lyric.
Yeah, no, most of my friends get every lyric from that.
What compels the both of you to write your books for teens rather than another reading group?
I mean, for me, it's the fact that adults also read them. That the category is a fake category. That you publish it for teens, and it's amazing to have a teen audience, but there isn't the wall there that people assume there is. That it's not a limitation. I think it would be very frustrating if none of my friends read it. And it was just teens.
Oh, I was just supposed to read your books?
I said friends. I'll be there for you when the stars begin to fall. Look over my shoulder, one eye open. Sorry, you were saying. But no, I think teen literature right now is the best, most active, most interesting piece of literature, and that we have a freedom to explore. I mean, she wrote a Mad Cow novel. I wrote a novel, Wide Awake, that starts with the election of the first gay Jewish president of the United States. Like, we're just being able to do whatever we want, pretty much, and have an audience for it, and really explore, and not feel that our audience is limited to any demographic, which is just the perfect amount of freedom that any author could ask for. So I think that's why it's important to me, and I think you are also part of this tradition of teen literature that really has the power to affect lives in a way that adult literature doesn't always.